A very good morning. You're watching World 24/7. I'm Divya Vadva. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including the US presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Well, it's Donald Trump who's blamed Joe Biden for opening up the borders to terrorists, is what he said. And it is, Joe Biden who's gone ahead and called Donald Trump a liar. We'll get you all the details. But first, the headlines. US presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Well, Biden and Trump face off in Atlanta. Trump and Biden slam each other over various issues from immigration, foreign policy, as well as abortion rights. What is going to be happening as far as the Ukraine war is concerned if Donald Trump comes back into power? And of course, the age issue is something that cropped up as well. In the battle for Harrow East, a British Indian hub, Labour's Pramesh Patel makes his debut into politics. We get you a ground report. Amid escalating tensions and a volatile security landscape in Lebanon, India has issued a stern travel advisory urging citizens to exercise caution and reconsider travel plans to the Middle Eastern nation. And China's former defense minister has been expelled. We're talking about Li Shangfu, who's been charged with corruption. And India has made it to the final of the T20 World Cup by defeating South Africa. Well, India is in the finals.
Stride into the final. 2 years ago, today it's India's chance, an opportunity.
Let's get to your top story, and that's President Biden and former President Donald Trump facing off, going at each other as far as the first presidential debate of the election of 2024 is concerned. The debate hosted by CNN is the first time that both the candidates have, seen each other faced off as far as that debate is concerned on a stage since 2020. The candidates kicked off the debate by slamming each other's records on economy, immigration, as well as abortion rights. This is the earliest televised debate that's taken place in the history of U.S. elections.
I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart, but you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
That's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. You don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered.
And to get more on that first televised debate, we have Carolyn Malone joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Well, we heard Trump slam Biden for opening up the borders for terrorists, and Biden there calling, Donald Trump a complete liar. Take us through the key takeaways of the debate.
We absolutely did. Yeah, we absolutely did. We absolutely did hear them debating very strongly about immigration, that being one of the key issues that is engaging voters, particularly on the Republican side. Increasingly, people who vote Republican are concerned about the borders being too open, about too many people being allowed in, about the need for stronger security at the borders. And it's something that both Trump and Biden have engaged in the past, and we've heard them here on that debate stage going back and forth with that. Biden being very clear, though, that he sees that what Trump is saying, and Trump has been saying that criminals are being allowed into the country through the borders, he sees that as not being true. He says that's a lie. He says that Trump is, essentially making up stories about how other countries are opening their jails and allowing people through the US border. Also on the economy, Trump's talked about how he created a stronger US economy when he was last in charge. Biden said that also wasn't true. And in fact, Trump was the president that increased the US debt more than any other president has in their time in office. So strongly disagreeing with that as well. They've also talked about foreign policy, Ukraine being a hot topic. Trump saying that if and when he is in power again, when he becomes president, that he will end the war with Russia, that he's saying that's a war that should never have happened. Biden retorting that Putin, the president of Russia, is a war criminal, and that is not something that is tenable, to have the end of a war with a deal when you're dealing with someone that he sees as being a war criminal. So very contentious issues that they're going back and forth on here. But unlike previous debates, they're not really being able to interrupt each other because CNN is muting the other person when they're not being asked to answer a question. So there has been a bit more of a calmer type of mood on the stage so far. One downside, though, for Biden is, he appeared to struggle in the beginning of the debate and even lost his train of thought about 12 minutes in when he was talking about the economy, which, clearly is not a good look, especially when a lot of voters are looking to see if Biden is still able enough, if he still has enough mental agility as an 80-plus-year-old to be the president of the country again. Trump is a few years younger, but doesn't seem to be having that same kind of attention over his mental ability. So certainly that will count against him. But also Biden seems to be doing a good job of fact-checking Trump as well. So giving each other kind of a bit of back and forth on these hot topic debates. One question they had just recently in the last few moments was about climate change. Trump avoided the question really altogether and started talking about social justice and about the police reform and about how Biden hasn't done a good job for black voters. Black voters are a key part of the demographic that either side would need to win in order to get into office again. He did eventually get to climate change, but one of the big controversies that Trump has faced in the last few months has been that he held a meeting with energy executives, and after that it was alleged that he made some kind of deal with them, basically to help them if he gets back in office with tax breaks. That's a bit ambiguous to see. There's some probes going on to see actually what happened in that debate. Of course, Trump also now a convicted felon. He was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. Of course, Biden brought that up in the debate so far, saying that he's a felon. Trump retorted and said, well, your son, Hunter Biden, is also a felon. So, hitting each other hard with those very direct allegations as well so far.
Right. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for joining us with all those deep details. Well, both President Biden and former President Donald Trump have extremely different views when it comes to immigration, abortion rights, employment and the economy. Where do Biden and Trump really stand on key issues? Let's listen in to the debate.
Made up. It's a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable? Just
to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work, and we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you.
We just heard Donald Trump and Joe Biden face each other off in that televised debate. Now, Biden is the oldest president at 81, while Trump, if he wins, will become the oldest president to be sworn in. Many of the opinion that Biden is too old for a second term. Will Trump be coming back? He has many things on the agenda, including lowering the price of oil. Will that be a game changer? We will keep tracking the story and getting you more on that. Switching tracks now, India has issued advisory for Lebanon in the wake of rising tensions between Israel and Lebanon. And this is with India issuing a travel advisory with a stern travel message urging their citizens to exercise caution and reconsider travel plans to the Middle Eastern nation. The Indian embassy in Lebanon has advised all Indian nationals to remain vigilant and maintain communication with the embassy. And it's not just India, but it's also the United States, Germany, Netherlands, Canada, North Macedonia, as well as Kuwait that have advised its nationals to leave Lebanon, fearing a full-blown war between Israel and Lebanon. Get ready to crash, choosing from a tightly controlled group of 4 candidates loyal to the Supreme Leader at a time of growing public frustration. While the election is unlikely to bring a major shift in the Islamic Republic's policies, the outcome could influence the succession to Khamenei, Iran's 85-year-old Supreme Leader in power for 3.5 decades. He has called for a maximum turnout to offset a legitimacy crisis fueled by public discontent over economic hardship and curbs on political and social freedoms. Switching tracks to China now, and China's ex-defense minister Li Shangfu has been charged with graft. The ruling Communist Party, headed by President Xi Jinping, has expelled the former defense minister for alleged corruption and launched a prosecution proceedings against him. The Communist Party of China's leadership on Thursday decided to expel the 66-year-old for serious violation of party discipline and the law. Now, Li, who headed the People's Liberation Army's all-important rocket missile force and was personally picked up for the top defense post by Xi Jinping himself, went missing last year, sparking speculation that he was being investigated for corruption and indiscipline. Li is among dozens of top PLA generals who have been sacked or punished for corruption since Xi Jinping assumed power in 2012. And let's get you the latest as far as the T20 World Cup is concerned. And India has made it to the finals by thrashing England by 68 runs. It's Akshar Patel and Kuldeep Yadav who did their magic as far as the game is concerned. Now, India to face off South Africa, and that's going to be happening in the finals of the T20 World Cup.
Well, he's given it. It's all over. India's stride into the final. 2 years ago, it was England. Today, it's India's chance.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition. Thank you so much for watching.